All right, what about changes in state law, not the U.S. Constitution? Fentanyl gaining a lot of steam at the State House, as we've heard this session, mostly around creating more strict penalties, adding the drug to Idaho's mandatory minimum statute. But now there's effort to kind of loosen some restrictions. What does that mean?
So it's specifically about the drug paraphernalia statute, Brian. So how that shakes out with the Health and Welfare Committee today, well, they gave unanimous support, a green light for this bipartisan bill. So in simple terms, the state currently punishes people for having the tools to test if a drug is laced with fentanyl, or really to test a drug at all, I should say. And lawmakers today say that law is outdated.
A law is only as good as it's written.
When this bill was passed in 1980.
Previously penned a decade into the war on drugs, Idaho inked a hard line to keep its people in line.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
But the people say
we support this bill.
It's time for a rewrite.
Knowledge of presence or absence of a deadly substance will save Idahoans' lives.
The effort's co-sponsored by Republican Representative Marco Erickson and Democrat Ilana Rebel.
Anything that tests for drugs is banned drug paraphernalia. So we want to take fentanyl test strips off that list so that people can have ready access to them and hopefully limit the number of fentanyl overdose deaths in Idaho.
Idaho law enforcement say the drug is a crisis.
I have not seen a scarier drug trend than fentanyl.
Police overwhelmingly support a separate piece of legislation to create stronger penalties for traffickers and dealers. Throughout the session, they've had a list of reasons why.
Fentanyl is hundreds of times more lethal than heroin.
From 2019, they had 290 overdose deaths.
70% of the pills that law enforcement is finding on the street have a potentially lethal dose.
Let's defend our people, defend our land, show strength.
The statistics are serious, but pale in comparison to an anecdote.
His name was Michael Stabile.
And Caden Stone knows its weight.
He passed away from fentanyl overdose in his home at age 15. Lake City High School in Coeur d'Alene is a school of almost 2,000 students, and he stood out.
It's been nearly 3 years, and Caden's caught chasing answers.
We can't just pretend like they don't exist, because people are losing their lives.
Which is why he supports the current push to carve out fentanyl testing strips.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
A one-sided room today that says the state's written a false equivalent.
Tubes and baggies and measuring scales and needles and all of the things that you would typically associate with drug paraphernalia. But we thought that this really does not belong on that list. This is something that is most likely to be used by people trying to avoid being poisoned and overdosing on fentanyl.
The state's definition of drug paraphernalia matters because that language is in other state laws. Giving drug paraphernalia to another person is a crime. So currently, if someone has a fentanyl testing strip for whatever reason and gives it to a friend, that's a felony. It's up to a $30,000 fine and 9 years in prison just to possess it, Brian. You could be locked up for a year and fined $1,000.
Maybe I'm making a leap here, but I would think that maybe could you include Narcan in that? Because Narcan is used for drug overdoses. So if you have Narcan, are you then susceptible to having drug paraphernalia?
You're not testing with it.
Okay.
And the paraphernalia is more so like scales to weigh drugs, things like that. So.
Okay. All right. It's quite a leap, I guess. Thank you very much, Andrew.